Guess what? You have the confidence inside of you already to achieve any musical goal that you want, including auditioning. So, how do you hone your confidence? Well, my friend, that is with the Confident Musician's Audition Guide. This guide is to get you from the practice room to on the stage for your auditions. We talk about everything, including planning your practice, that's in Chapter 1, working with accompanists in Chapter 3, getting into the zone at auditions, that's in Chapter 5. Chapter 2 is all about mental practice, setting up mock auditions, and basically everything about mock auditions in Chapter 4, and auditioners, which is scattered throughout the whole guide, and a load more. Seriously, this 43-page guide is my baby. I have poured my heart and soul into this to make sure it is exactly what you need for your auditions. So whether you are just about to go into your auditions, thinking about how you are going to start auditioning, or just curious about how auditioning works, this guide is for you. Let's be honest, the auditioning process might be a short process, but the effects of it can be life-changing. So invest in you, and let's make this the audition season of confidence. Let's get you auditioning with confidence. Check out the show notes for the link to your copy, or visit confidentmusicianing.com. This year, I want to set up a consistent routine so that I know when I practice, but I know that things will change and I will have to adapt them. Hello and welcome to the Confident Musicianing Podcast. My name is Eleanor and I am a British American oboist studying at the Royal Conservatoire of Scotland, literally my dream school. And it took me a long way to get there. I applied and auditioned for 12 schools in 3 different countries. It was a lot of hard work, but oh my gosh, so worth it. I want you to have the confidence to work hard in achieving your goals. So come with me as we go on this journey together. So sit down, pull up a chair, take a seat, or if you're on the go, welcome to the Confident Musicianing Podcast. Hello and welcome back to another episode of this podcast. Thank you so much for being here. I'm feeling extra cozy today because I am wearing a sweater, a jumper that I have knit, and I knit it last year, and every single time I wear it, it just feels like I'm wearing a hug. So I'm feeling extra cozy and extra excited to dive into this episode. It's a very interesting thing. It is currently 2025 already. 2025. I'm like, probably 2 years ago it was 2020. Like that's how I think, that's like my mind right now. And it's like, how has it been 5 years since 2020? 6 years from 2019? Oh my gosh. It is crazy. But you know what? It's interesting because I feel like a lot of the time when I am thinking about the new year, sometimes I get a bit nervous, a bit overwhelmed by so many things. For me, I don't know about you, but New Year's Day and New Year's Eve is always a bit emotional. It's a bit emotional. It's a bit like, oh my gosh, number one, I'm so grateful for the past year, and number two, I'm excited to see what I'm gonna do, but I'm also a little nervous about, starting things, how things are gonna go. My New Year's was so wholesome, I feel, because I wanted to go out, not like go out, but just go outside. And I live in a city, so I wanted to go to like the city center, like the main area of the city, because I knew there would be some people there. And I didn't make it in time for midnight, and I ended up it being midnight when I was kind of on the street that usually is quite crowded, but really there was no one there. And it was interesting because I heard everyone count down in the distance, and everyone was like cheering and stuff, and it was loud over there, right? But where I was, it was quiet, and I think it was the best way to start this year because I was kind of just there in the moment. I was like, okay, everyone's partying, everyone's excited, it's just turned 2025. And instead of me being like 10, 9, 8, like how it usually is, it changed very quietly for me. And I was like, oh, it's now 2025. It was just like really nice, really nice, quiet change and just being in the moment. So that was my New Year's, and that was something that I really, really, really was grateful for. So last episode we talked about 2024, things that I learned, and I hope my hope with that past episode is that you were able to kind of use that episode to reflect on your year and how your year went. Now, if you haven't listened to that episode, I will link it below in the show notes in the description so that you can take a look at that, because that, I think, reflecting on the past year is so helpful for you realizing all the amazing things that you've done, because 365 days is a lot of days, and sometimes you don't remember all the things you did and kind of how much you did and the joyful experiences you had. So if you haven't listened to that episode, please do listen. But today we are going to be stepping right into goals for 2025 and kind of things that I like to remember when I'm setting goals. So goals can be quite daunting, to be honest. But there are some things that I think are so helpful to remember when setting goals that I want to share with you. So let's dive right in. The first thing is understanding that your practice will look different over the year. So this is kind of specifically talking about practice goals, but to be honest, you could probably apply this to any goal, any part of your life. But your practice will look different over the year, and the challenge for you is to adapt, right? I think when we think about goals and we think about practice goals, we might think, okay, I'm going to practice, this time, and this time. And I did that one time. I remember, I think it was like 3 years ago. Oh my gosh, 2022 was 3 years ago. How did that happen? Anyway, I remember specifically in March of 2022, I decided I am going to practice at these specific times, 10, 2, and 5, and an hour for each of them. And that was kind of like, at that point, I had the time to do that. I had the structure to be able to kind of make it the same every day. And it was, for me, that was so helpful, and I was able to grow in that time. But then I ended up, over the summer that year or whenever, things changed and I couldn't do, 10 to 5 the way that I did. So it's interesting how things change, and adapting is so important. For instance, this past summer in 2024, I didn't have much time to practice at all. I had a summer job. It was taking a lot of my time up. And I got home every day and I was like so tired from this job, and I was like, okay, now I have to practice. And to be honest, I didn't get that much time. So what I focused on was efficiency. I focused on, okay, how can I be the most efficient in this practice session, because I do not have as much time as I did, say, a few months ago. So adapting to your practice can be so helpful. And I think when you're setting goals of being like, okay, I'm going to do this, that, and the other, understanding that sometimes you might have to adapt those goals. And that does not mean that you're failing. That means that you are adapting to the situation. And if you do that, then you can still have good results from your practice. So I think that is really helpful. This year, I want to set up a consistent routine so that I know when I practice, but I know that things will change and I will have to adapt them. So a consistent routine, I'm not sure what that will look like. For me, I start school next Monday by the time, when I'm recording this. And for me, it's a bit kind of nerve-wracking in terms of what's my schedule going to look like, and I have to think about what's my schedule going to look like, how things are going to be set up, and what am I going to do with my practice. So I challenge you for your goal setting. When you are setting goals for your practice, remember that things will change, and to be consistent and to focus on that, but also to be like, okay, things will change and I need to adapt and still be able to kind of focus on that and practice, but adapt. And that is completely fine. You're getting into the groove, okay? It's fine to get into the groove, okay? The next thing that I think is important is to set audition goals. Setting audition goals. I have an audition by the time this comes out next week. I'm currently practicing and preparing for it, and it's very exciting. It's my first audition of 2025, and I haven't done an audition in a while, so it's a bit kind of exciting to get back into that and see how it goes. So I am also going to be auditioning for some other things this year as well. And for me, this year isn't like a audition for university year type thing. It's going to be more auditions for youth orchestras, for different scholarships, and things like that. So I'm thinking about how I'm going to do that, what I want to do with those auditions. For me, I usually use a spreadsheet, to be honest. I have like a spreadsheet and I type in, when things are due, what I'm going to do for them, etc. But plan out what you want to go for. For me, I'm thinking, I have this audition next week, and then I have a few auditions in the spring, but nothing much in the summer or in the autumn. And I'm thinking to myself, what do I want to go for? If you have a summer free, maybe go for something in the summer. Like, think about, what do I want to audition for? What piques my interest? What am I excited about? If you have the time to kind of do that, go for it. Like, even audition for things that maybe you don't necessarily plan on doing. You just want to get that audition experience. That can be so helpful as well. So maybe 2025 for you is the year of auditioning, because to be honest, auditioning is a skill. We need to build it, and it is a great way to kind of get in the groove of things. If you audition for a lot of things, then you'll get better at auditioning. Do you know what I mean? And to be honest, I wasn't gonna do this, but like, this is kind of a great opportunity for me to tell you about the Confident Musicians Audition Guide. I have a guide. I don't know if you know this, but I have a guide, and it takes you through all of like how to audition for things, and all the things from planning your practice efficiently to getting an accompanist to like how to work with accompanists, all the way to like what to do right before the audition, what to do during the audition, after the audition, how you can reflect, dealing with nerves, all of these things, all the things that you're kind of like, what do I do? I have a guide for that. So if that's something that you're interested in, please do check that out. I will link it in the show notes in the description, and I hope you check that out, because I poured my heart and soul into this guide. It's so like exciting for me when I can share things like that with you. So if that's something that you're interested in, please do go for it. The link is in the show notes. So for something when you're doing auditions, I think it's really, really, really helpful to do a spreadsheet. I do actually talk about doing a spreadsheet in the Confident Musicians Audition Guide, but doing a spreadsheet and kind of creating that so that you can see all of the auditions that you want to do at once, and that really helps deal with kind of overwhelm of, oh my gosh, what am I doing with all these auditions? So think about what you want to audition for. It's something, you have a whole year of opportunity. What do you want to go for? How do you want to shape this year? To be honest, that's really exciting. All right, number 3, planning your practice. Now this kind of goes back to number 1, the idea of when do you want to practice? But this is more about planning the specific sessions. This is something that I started doing, a few months ago. I mean, I planned my practice before. I have done my practice plans before, and I did it a lot for university auditions. And I talk about planning your practice in the Confident Musicians Audition Guide. But after my university auditions, I'm going to be honest, I kind of stopped planning my practice. And I was like, okay, I don't really have much to do in terms of oboe. Like, I'm just going to practice, and I know what I need to do, and I'm not necessarily going to write it down. And then a few months ago, I started to plan it again. And oh my gosh, it was so helpful. Like, seriously, it was so amazingly helpful. And the tool that I use to help plan my practice is a Notable practice journal. Notable is a practice journal company, and I started to use their journals, and oh my gosh, like literally, it really changed how I practice. Not only was I able to plan my practice and know what I'm going to do, I also knew when to stop. And I think that as musicians, that is so helpful for us, especially if we have so many auditions and performances and things like that. Knowing when to stop. if, constantly my brain's like, we did not practice enough today, we didn't do enough today. And if I can look at a notebook, if I can look at a notable practice journal and say, actually we have, because we did this, that, and the other, and we've already completed this page in the journal for today, and we have practiced, and, you can get on with other things. That is so, so, so helpful. So as soon as I realized that this was helping me and this was working, I knew that I had to tell you about it, and I knew that I had to give you a code. So use Eleanor15 for 15% off your order. That is code ELEANOR 15 for 15% off your order. And seriously, get yourself a journal and start the new year off right, because this is so, so, so helpful. Seriously, as a stressed uni student, this really changed how I practiced. Now, you know me, I never recommend anything that I don't love. And this is an affiliate code, which means that I do receive a commission with no extra cost to you. All right, let's do a recap, shall we? Recap time. Number 1, understanding your practice will look different over the year and adapting to it. Planning your practice, planning when you want to practice is so great, but knowing things will change and I am going to adapt to things is also so helpful as well. Literally, sometimes what can be great is like on Sunday before you start your next week, look at your journal, look at your notebook, your planner, your diary, whatever you use to kind of schedule your week, and just jot in practice sessions so you know that you have them even if they're different from last week. So stay consistent and also adapt is so helpful. The next thing is setting audition goals. Think about what are you going to audition for? What are you looking for? If this year isn't really audition heavy, what do you want to go for? Is there a youth orchestra that you've always been like, I want to try, I don't know, I want to try? Go for it. I remember I did that once and I got in, and it was one of the best experiences I've had music-wise. So yeah, go for things that you are thinking about, because, music opportunities are the best. And the last thing is planning the practice. I did this. I have done this more recently as well. It's so helpful, and Notable's practice journals are so amazing. They just set it up for you. I mean, before, when I was planning my practice for university auditions, I kind of set it up myself. I started with a blank page, and you can do that totally. But to be honest, sometimes, especially when you're tired and you're like, oh my gosh, I don't want to practice and I don't want to set up today's journal page, and but if the journal page is already set up, in Notable's practice journals, you've kind of already got that set up, and then you just write down the things you want to do, and then you practice, and it's such a game changer, seriously. All right, that link is in the show notes. Oh, also use the code if you want to get a journal. Code Eleanor15, ELEANOR 15 for 15% off. That is 15% off. Okay. That is about it for this episode. Thank you so much for listening. I want to give you a big old happy new year. It is so exciting. 2025 will be your year. It's going to be so good. And I cannot wait to see all the amazing things you do in the year. All right. Take care. Bye-bye.